Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Aiman Hanif bin Muhammad Zakaria alias Zakari. My metric number is CF200155. For the introduction, geology is the study of the structure and the process that has shaped the Earth's surface and underneath it. It also offers method for calculating the relative and absolute age of rock found in a certain location. Geologists can chronicle the Earth's geological history as a whole and show the Earth's age. The site visit at Geology Air Hitam, Johor, as part of the student PFC 21303 engineering geology subject that helps students to do the laboratory tests. For the objective, we have many objectives. First, determine of rock and mineral that available in the study area. Second, identification and classification of weathering grade of rock outcrop. 3. Investigate the geological structure that form on the study area. 4. Conduct seismic hammer test and sampling work for point load test. 5. Determine of rock mass quality using rock mass rating. 6. Discontinue data collection using Bruton compass and cycling survey. 7. Determine of mode of slope failure using Stereonet kinetic analysis. And 8. Calculate the factor of safety for the rock slope.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Shazana binti Mazlan. My metric number CF200096. And now I will talking about literature review. Our title of the journal is Evaluation of NRCS Curve Number and Moldave Time Series Process for Anti-Descent Moisture Condition. So for introduction, water catchment hydrology regime means in terms of water balance model are important for understanding the various environmental and biophysical processes operating at varying spatial and temporal scales. Calculating the spatial and temporal response of runoff for precipitation event is important for understanding erosion processes, sediment transport, contaminant load, and flood hydrology, and also ecological impact. Next, for methodology, two National Weather Service NWS Cooperative Weather Station, Gonzales 10 SW and Gonzales 1 Newton are the primary long-term data source for gauge precipitation in the study sites. Gonzales 10 SW is located a few kilometers inside the northeastern boundary of the watershed, and Gonzales 1 Newton is located 30 km north of the watershed. With the gauge station record, the assumption the gauge precipitation would really represent spatially varying precipitation within 1,400 km watershed was questionable. Thus, the study utilizes precipitation estimate from the NWS rate, stage 3 and or multi-sensor precipitation estimator MPE data product.
Hi, my name is Nazirun Azim bin Sharul Nizam. My metric number is CF200203. So now I will explain about the methodology of our project. So during the period of handling project engineering geology, there are a few methods and tools that we use to analyze the data of the rock at the site location. So the first one is how we determine the rock and the mineral that available in our study area. So on this part, the only instrument we use for this activity was hammer, which we use to break the rock while identify the type of rock and mineral qualities, and we utilize it by using our hand and eyes. So the second one is we try to identifications and classification of the weathering grade of the rock outcrop. So on this part, we utilize a rebound hammer and a hammer to identify and split the weathering grade of rock into their different group. We utilize the same procedure as before to smash the rock. After that, we look at the rock physical conditions to check if it has weathered due to the chemical oxidation, hydration, and hydrolysis, and among other things. For rebound hammer, we choose locations to test, then design a grid box with 9 points. Then we utilize the rebound hammer there, and we can use the result to calculate the rock strength. For the third one, we try to investigate the geological structure that form on the study area. On this part, the instrument that we use are Brandon compass and steady plate. To evaluate whether they are a fold, joint, or bedding, and among other things, we must look at the slope physical condition by using our eyes. So the fourth one is conduct shims, hammer test, and sampling work for point load test. On this part, we will need a rebound hammer and a hammer to determine the strength of the rock. We use the rebound hammer, while the hammer was used to break the rock in order to accurate samples for the point load test. So now I will explain about the result and the discussion. So as we know, our site location is located at Air Hitam. There are several types of rock and minerals there, and it is difficult to identify mineral precisely at the site based on one feature. However, certain mineral may be detected with the naked eyes and by completing simple tests such as rock form, colors, streak, cleavage, fracture, luster, hardness, density, specific gravity, and acid reactivity. On these sites, we may first say that the stone in Air Hitam is clastic. Clastic is made up of aggregate of singles minerals of rock fragment. The color of the rock is the determinant. For investigate the geological structure, geological is the study of the three-dimensional distributions of rock unit with respect to their deformational history. It also aims to use measurements of current rock geometric to learn more about the history of rock and to comprehend the stress field that lead to the structural geology we see today. For the another part, that is modes of rock deformation, we only have two, that is brittle rock which simply break, and ductile, that is rock deformed plastically. Other than that, the factor control the modes of the rock deformation is confining pressure, temperature, and speed. For factor of affecting deformation, there are several types of factor. The first one is confining pressure and temperature. That is, the rock behave in a brittle when near the surface where the confining pressure and temperature are relatively low. Other than that, rock behave in a ductile when buried deep where the confining pressure and temperature are relatively high. For speed, the rock respond brittle if the stress applied is rapid, and rock respond ductile if the stress applied is slowly. So for the geological structure are called based on the shape of deformation. There are four types, that is foul, joint, fold, deep angle, deep directions, and that's all.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Daniel Bantanto Hedi, and my matrix number is CF to 00194. Okay, I will proceed with the Smith hammer test. Smith's hammer test is also known as Swiss hammer, rebound hammer, or a concrete hammer test, which is an apparatus that used to assess the elastic properties of concrete or rock, which is surface hardness and penetration resistance. The rebound of a spring load mass slamming against the surface of a sample is measured by the hammer. The test hammer strike the concrete with a specific amount of force. Its rebound is determined by the concrete's hardness, which is assessed by the test equipment. The rebound value can be used to calculate the the comprehensive strength of the concrete or the rock using a conversion chart. The hammer should be held at the right angle to the surface during the test, which should be flat and smooth. The rebound reading will be modified by the hammer orientation, which is like gravity will increase the mass rebound distance when applied upward. For example, on the underside of a hung slab, and vice versa for tests conducted on a floor set. The schematic hammer measurements are made on a random scale spanning from 10 to 100. Two types of hammer for the schematic rebound test, which are known as schematic hammer test. We have two types of hammer, which is the first one is L type, which can give impact energy to 0.735 Newton meter. And for the N type, the second one, we have N type, which is can give impact energy to 2.207 Newton meter. There are a few difference between L type and N type. So first we look at the L type hammer. So it's handling quite equal type to the types, quite equal and same to the type N, but the type L offer an impact energy 3 times smaller than N type, and the type L original schematic operates with significant lower impact energy, but it greater sensitivity in the lower range. For the N type, the rebound value are read from scale for subsequent calculation of the mean. Comprehensive strength value can be read from conversion diagram, but it less sensitive to irregular surface. Okay, as you can see, this rebound hammer chart that we need to convert to get the Newton per millimeter square, or we can convert it to megapascal. Okay, now the data that we collect for our project, the rebound hammer data. We have three samples for S1, S2, and S3, and we have three positions which we label as A, B, and C. And this is the data that we collect from the project. That's all for me. Thank you. Okay, now for the point load test. Point load test is the test that we use to identify the strength of the rock. This is an index test that we perform relatively without using any complex equipment to come up with important data on the mechanical properties of the rock. Index tests are widely used in soil mechanics. To carry on with the test, we take around 10 irregular size samples of rock from the site, which is from the same rock, from the same stone, and take it to the lab to make a test. Now, this is the sample of our data that we collected from the sample that we get from the site. From the data, we must calculate the average point load index. Then we must exclude the highest data and the lowest data. After that, we must calculate the UCS of the rock, which is labeled as C, or we can call it is unit axial compression strength of the rock itself. So for our project, we got it. We get 14.2907.
For the slate durability test, a test is described that assesses a rock sample resistance to softening and breakup as a result of a standard drying and wetting cycle. The process of slate durability test, when we get out the stone from the oven and we put at scale calculate, and then after we get the amount, we put at the machine and let it cycle for 10 minutes. After that, we put back in the oven and let it dry for 24 hours. And the next day, we calculate the stone in the scale.
So we continue with discussion and conclusion. For discussion, we have 2 points. It means the result of the analysis obtained and factor that cause error. So average point load index IS 50 MPa equal to 0.53 MPa is good the highest and lowest. USC of rock C and equal to 14.2907. We found a rock strength on different type of the rock formation in Malaysia, the physical properties of rock for civil engineering application, and understand the theory rock test. Next, factor that cause error. First, because the experiment involved a sample surface of various shape and requires a high focus and cause the experiment in terms of observation to occur small error. Second, there was a slight shaking of hand while holding a compass to get angle and direction. It is due to the condition of standing on the surface of the sample site is not flat. This decision caused the experiment to be slow to run because it requires good accuracy. Lastly, the cutting and making of the stone block made cannot be considered 100% accurate. This because indirectly it requires manpower to do it, even using a machine to cut and the material and break it up. For conclusion, the point load test. Lastly, in conclusion, the point load test is useful tool for determining intake rock strength qualities. It was a standard test of geotechnical. For first, the sample must be considered as a prerequisite in 3 conditions. According to the case study, the distance must be greater than 30 mm and also less than 15 mm. USC from the data. So for USC from the data, we study by referring to the table as above. It was indicate the point load strength index or MPa. The average point load we get from the data was 0.53 MPa and USC as result equal to 14.2907. But the strength test must not be used for any design or analytical purpose in civil engineering area. So it just can be used to clarify the strength, the material as an index test as we study. That's all. Thank you.